morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We hope it is good. Welcome to another episode of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I am Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Join my best friend travel over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Lee Elias Lee. It's episode 6 of season 2. We are hitting our stride, my friend. How are you doing today?
Ray, I'm doing good. I come bearing gifts. I invested in the show.
Ooh.
I was at a place called Target with my daughter.
Target
in some places, Target where I'm from, because we speak normal here in Pennsylvania. And I was like, let's go down the toy aisle, which I always know, Ray, is a dangerous place for people like you and me to go.
It's a risk. Yep.
It's a risk, okay? And to be fair, for years now, I have held restraint of I don't need that. I want that.
Our wallets tremble in fear as we walk down the toy aisle.
Right. And really more of the kids than me, but even my own self. I'm like, okay, no, you don't need that action figure. I've partaken in Legos. Legos are fun. They're a hobby. They're good for passing time. Then I passed the aisle and I looked up, Ray, and I saw this thing and I kept walking. I was like, no. Then I somehow, Ray, I made a full rotation back to this aisle again. And I looked at it again. And I said, no, this is really happening. Third rotation, I looked at it and I said, I could probably get that. And then I started justifying it in my head. I was like, okay, and I'll start giving hints now. I was like, well, that'll look really nice on set, right? I was like, that's a show that's coming back that I'm excited about. And it's also possibly the namesake of my son.
Oh, yeah.
And I got myself what I believe to be a 10 to 12 inch, for those of you listening, X-Men 97 Wolverine. Logan. It's Logan,
purchase.
Ray.
That's a quality purchase.
Name is Logan.
Yeah.
Logan Leon, which means Logan the Lion when you add the Spanish in. Also really cool to start seeing the X-Men 97 animation now on the boxes. A little bit spruced up. They put Storm back to what she should be, which is basically late 80s, early 90s Storm.
The Mohawk Storm.
The Mohawk. But and everyone looks a little younger, which is kind of weird to me. I didn't know you could make them look young. And Jubilee looks older, which I don't get. But you can see snarling Wolverine. Ray, I have bought myself Wolverine. I think it's okay. It was not that much. It was only $14.99.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No, when we were kids, for some reason, these were $9,647.89.
No, at least that's what our parents told us anyway.
Yeah, and listen, you got to eat all the food because there's starving children.
That's right.
Overseas. I won't say any countries nowadays could get in trouble for that. But Ray, I made the purchase. I feel good about it. It's by Hasbro. It's part of the Titan Hero series, whatever that means. I haven't opened it yet, but it says on the back here, this is Wolverine, and my son's name is Logan. So I wanted to share that with you, Ray, because I knew you would understand of all people. And although we will start with sports tonight, a little geekdom to start the show tonight.
Yeah, we got a big Marvel section later in the show, so we'll definitely we got a lot. Yeah, this is might be our biggest show since we've come back, folks, because a lot has happened this week across sportsdom, across geekdom. We got a lot to talk about. And we're already getting teasers for stuff for next week. Like, because there's a new Ghostbusters trailer dropping tomorrow.
Yes.
That's next week's episode. We already know that's going to be part of next week's episode. So, as my proton pack is
they've been teasing that well. I was surprised they didn't drop that on Halloween. But they recently changed their profile picture. That account is suddenly very active.
Yeah.
The only hint we have is icicles. That's the only hint they've given us.
We know it's going to be set around Christmas time, right? We know that the film is set around Christmas time because originally the film was supposed to release around Christmas, but then because of obviously the strikes and everything else going on, it's been delayed till the end of Q1, I think sometime in March of 2024.
Yeah.
But, so it's going to be a wintry themed Ghostbusters, and I, for one, cannot wait to see what this trailer is like tomorrow. But that's next week's episode.
That's next week, and we will talk about this later today about why that's more exciting than some Marvel things right now.
Yes, and we'll get into that Marvel stuff later. But first, we're going to kick things off with sports and the end of the baseball season. The World Series has concluded.
Thank God.
Indeed, the Texas Rangers, for the first time in their 63-year history, have won the World Series. Of course, over 50 of those years in Texas. The first 10 they were in Washington, D.C. as the third iteration of the Senators. But just saying,
you're a geek.
Specifying,
who likes sports.
Yes, exactly. So a long-suffering franchise that has finally put it all together. They won in 5 games over the Diamondbacks. And really, we talked about this when we did our analysis, that it looked like the Diamondbacks were just kind of happy to be there, whereas the Rangers were there on a mission, and they completed the mission. They are World Series champions. A lot of great stories that came out of this. But Lee, any quick initial thoughts before we go straight off some fun stats from the series?
I will pat us on the back, Ray. I think we both predicted the Rangers would go the distance to get there. I don't think we picked the winner, but I think that's a big deal. I mean, we got it almost 95% of the way right. And I believe you picked them to win the World Series. So congratulations. And look, anytime a team wins their first anything, especially a team that's been around that long, it's very special. So as a coach, congratulations to the Texas Rangers. That's a huge deal anytime you win it. Very proud franchise. A lot of political backing of that franchise, but for the athletes there, I'm happy they won.
Yeah. And also this is right now, we've now 3 out of 4 in terms of major championships. First time winners so far. The Stanley Cup this year was a first time winner with the Golden Knights. The NBA championship, first time winner with the Denver Nuggets. World Series, first time winner with the Rangers. The question now is, who can possibly win the Super Bowl that possibly for the first time? Suddenly that Lions pick starts to get more and more interesting there.
Right.
But we'll get to that in a bit.
I'll predict now that will not happen.
It's probably not going to happen. It's unlikely. But fun stuff in the World Series. Will Smith, the reliever for the Rangers, he's now won 3 World Series in a row. He's kind of the Patrick Maroon of baseball.
Nice reference.
Yes, thank you. He was a Braves reliever, then he was an Astros reliever, and now he is with the Rangers. So he's won 3 World Series in a row.
That's
insane. The Yankees should make him a priority to sign this offseason.
It's the most Yankee thing you could have said.
Honestly, yeah. Corey Seager wins the MVP. He's only the 4th man ever to win multiple World Series MVPs. He's only the 2nd position player to ever do it. The other one was Reggie Jackson, who won with the Athletics and one with the Yankees. And Seager is the first man to ever win it in both leagues. Of course, one with the Dodgers in the National League, and now the Rangers in the American League. Bruce Bochy becomes the 6th manager to win 4 World Series all time. Great for him. He's first ballot Hall of Famer. Great for him to come back out of retirement in his first year out of retirement, because he retired from the Giants, took 3 years off, did some World Baseball Classic stuff, and was like, I really miss this. Signed a 3-year deal with the Rangers in the offseason.
Won the World Series.
And won another World Series.
It's insane. I think, Ray, we do have to mention that experience factor really does play in championship atmospheres. When you have guys that have been there and know what they're doing. This is one of the reasons the Patriots were so good for so many years. They just knew how to win. And you got a lot of experience. I'm looking at all the stats you just said. I'm also shocked that Seager's the first one to win it in both leagues. I mean, again, when you look at the history of baseball, hasn't been that long that players have been able to kind of jump around. Like, I think a lot of people make that mistake. It hasn't been that long. It's only been since like the 70s.
I was going to say, it's only really been since the 70s, about 50 years, really, where free agency's been very prevalent. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's amazing when you think about it. That's the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
I actually didn't remember that till you said it. And I was like, oh, we should talk about that for a second. But amazing a run here. Also, we got to note, I mean, how bad the Rangers were for several years in a row. I mean, it's amazing when you see it turn out. Experience
they lost 100 games as early as 2 years ago.
Yeah,
so.
Experience matters.
Yes, absolutely. And and
a lot of losing experience, I call experience.
Well, and Bruce Bochy, a lot of players going to back to your point, credit Bruce Bochy and his attitude of somebody who has been there before.
Right.
As a kind of guiding force, right? This is a relatively young team. A lot of these guys don't have a lot of experience on that team, but he does, and he kind of was able to steward them to a championship, and really just aside from the Astros ALCS, really kind of rolled over everybody. They rolled over Tampa Bay. They rolled over Baltimore. They rolled, again, they struggled against Houston series was interesting. And then they rolled over Arizona, 5 games. It was a short World Series.
Well, look, it comes down to belief. And this is a tough one to describe, verbally, I guess, but I've said it before. When you believe you're a team of destiny, it is very hard to derail that unless you run into another team of destiny, right? Which that does happen from time to time. Don't get me wrong. But it's one of those things, and this is where the experience comes in, is we talk about just being happy to be in a place. I'm always fond of telling my players in any championship atmosphere, do not stop until they put the trophy in your hand.
Yeah.
All right. If you settle, especially at a championship level, you are going to get eaten alive.
Yeah.
You just cannot stop. I told that great story about in hockey when Zdeno Chara was on the bench and Patrice Bergeron, this is in the 2011 Cup final when they won, was telling him, get on the ice, get on the ice. And Chara famously kind of says, why? Like, what are you talking about? He didn't realize there was 2 minutes left in the game and they were about to win the Stanley Cup. He was so focused on, he said after the game, I wasn't even looking at the clock. I had no idea how much time was left in the game. Yeah. Right? You don't stop till they put the trophy in your hand. Experience can make a young team believe that.
Yeah.
And that's what they did in Texas.
Yeah. And another thing is now, Texas, this I don't want to say this could be beginnings of a dynasty, but it could. This is a team that is stacked. A lot of these guys are signed long-term. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see who comes back, who doesn't. Obviously, remember, they signed DeGrom to a big deal. He missed half the year with Tommy John. He's not going to be back till next year. There's an argument that the Rangers could be better even next year compared to this year.
As long as it's not the Astros or the Mets, I'm fine.
Yeah, me too, actually. I'm actually all right with that, too.
That's my bar, right here.
Also, the Red Sox. I also have to put in the Red Sox.
You do need to put the Red Sox in. The Mets would be my I guess, version of that.
I say as long as it's not the Mets, Red Sox, and Astros, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's the right team from Texas is in the final. I just have not forgiven the Astros yet. Sorry, Astros fans.
I probably won't forgive them until the last couple of remnants of that 2017
they gotta be gone.
Retire.
I can't watch Altuve breaking records knowing.
No, exactly.
And they showed that home run where he goes like, I'm wearing a piece.
Yeah.
I was like, why are you showing me this? I don't want to remember any of this.
Yeah.
And then they got off easy with COVID. I hate to say that. They got off that year.
Yeah, they really did. It was all a slap on the wrist.
Do you think Major League Baseball, you want a real conspiracy, Ray? Actually, let's not do that. Did the MLB start COVID? Hot take. Hot take. No.
Hot feverish take.
Hot feverish. Delusional take.
Yes.
No, they did not.
Oh goodness. But yeah, other thing, you mentioned the Mets. Need to just mention this because it's always fun to laugh at the Mets. In fact, I've been laughing at the Mets honestly for the last 24 hours. The Mets thought they were going to get Craig Counsell as their new manager. Instead, Counsell went to the Cubs on a record deal for a manager, 5 years, $40 million, $8 million a year. He left the Brewers.
I'm available too, man. Maybe I should start doing it. Maybe I should switch to baseball.
Look, here's if the Mets, as much as I hate the Mets, if the Mets wanted to pay me to be their manager, I would do it because it's easy money.
You would run them into the ground in a heartbeat.
That's also true.
Everyone's playing a different position today.
But you know who might run them into the ground next year is the Mets. Then instead hired the Yankee bench coach, Carlos Mendoza, to be their new manager.
Right.
The Mets not pay attention to what is happening to the Yankees the last couple of years over there?
They haven't.
Clearly not. Look, you want to take our trash? Go right ahead, Mets. Go right ahead. But this, on the surface,
it's a good move for the Yankees.
It's great for us. Yes, we're getting rid of all these guys. We got rid of our hitting coach. Now the Mets took our bench coach. Now if we just got rid of Boone and Cashman, we'd be set. But
so listen, Mets, if you do end up winning the World Series, you can use the audio from this program. Just credit us.
This is the clip, preceding bad events or whatever.
By the way, the Mets, you're not going to win. So
they're not.
Ray knows this. There's very few franchises that I'm salty with. For some reason, the Mets are one of them. Yeah. I don't even get on Giants and Cowboys fans, but the Mets just annoy me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's that little brother complex. They win a series in July and they think they've won it all.
Yeah.
So the thing is they're everybody's little brother, right? They're little brother to the Braves, to the Phillies, to the Yankees, right? So it increases that much more for the Mets. But yeah, I really think this is a mistake. I'm not gonna lie. I get that one friend said it could be that he's like a bridge manager. Because remember, they famously said the Mets are not planning to be competitive again until 2026. They famously said that back in July at the trade deadline when they dumped everybody. They said, we are doing a rebuild. 2026 is now the target. So I wonder if Mendoza, he's literally just a bridge manager. I don't have the specifics of the contract.
Again, what I said before, if you bring in the right people, there's a storyline and you can believe and you can build, it can be fun to watch that. All right. Sure. But this is like major professional sports, a bridge manager. And the sad part is, Ray, I don't think you're wrong. You just need someone who can build some culture within that locker room. If you couldn't build it with all those stars, you need a personnel change for sure. And I guess we're kind of saying they're doing that, but we'll see what happens here. Because I just don't understand how a team with that much talent doesn't succeed. I mean, I could say the same for the Yankees, to be fair to you. Yep. But it's just amazing to me. Culture is a big part of it. No sabermetric can give you that.
Yeah. We're going to talk about culture a little bit later with pro football when we get to that. But before, as we wrap up baseball, we're actually going to take a brief dip into college. By the way, again, congratulations to the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
And screw the Mets.
I love this show.
Yes. Quick dip into college football as we transition now. Interesting. I don't know if folks have been hearing about this. There's a big scandal in college football between Michigan. Connor, I believe his name is Stalions. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
It's a horrible last name.
It also doesn't really matter because he's no longer part of college football, as he has been forced to resign amid the college football sign stealing scandal. Now, this is very similar to kind of what happened to the Patriots years ago, where they had sent personnel to the Bengals and whatnot to take film. And basically it has now been supposedly possible penalties that will be hit with Michigan will probably happen later this week. So we'll give you an update on next week's show. But at the very least, Stallings has resigned. It's going to be interesting to see if Jim Harbaugh is hit with any penalties, if there's anything else with the team is hit with any penalties. But basically, this gentleman Stallings, either himself or he paid others to go to other college football games and record game tape illegally. There are specific rules in college football that prohibit this. And Michigan got caught red-handed, and it doesn't look good for the Wolverines right now. So, Lee, what are your thoughts on yet another sign-stealing scandal in sports?
I understand competitiveness. I understand doing, quote-unquote, whatever it takes to win. Ray, I've just never been a cheater. I don't know how else to say it. If anybody ever catches me cheating, you won't. But I just don't understand. I don't understand the motive behind it. Is just, it's not a win. Like I'm the type of guy, Ray, just to give some context here. When my opponent, if I'm playing pool, we're playing pool, you and me, and you hit the 8-ball in, I hate winning like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I really hate it. But you know why? Because I love the competition. And cheating to me in any form, I'm not talking about gamesmanship. I'm talking about cheating.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're messing with a sacred aspect of competition to me.
Yeah.
Like it's a gift to be able to compete. And I am a very, very happy but competitive person.
Yeah.
And Ray, you've seen this before. Many people have fallen to me assuming my kindness is weakness. Like the truth is I'm more competitive than most people. But I won't cheat. And I just think that anyone who's willing to cheat to that level needs to be, completely blackballed from their sport forever. You've taken something from the game that you can't give back.
Yeah.
And that's why Altuve should not be playing baseball. No, I'm just kidding. Joking aside, I just, it's the Cool Runnings paradox, right? Like John Candy gave one of the best speeches on cheating ever. And there was some redemption there for him, but that's a movie.
It's also a movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it too much. It hurts me as a coach and a competitor when anybody does anything like that. I want to reiterate. I'm not talking about gamesmanship. I'm not saying like, oh, if you dive on the court or dive in a game, you should be blackballed from the game. I don't personally like that type of play, but that's part of the game.
Right.
But cheating, taking the control out of the athletes, that's what I'm trying to say. Taking the control out of the hands of the athletes, something's wrong with that.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Agreed wholeheartedly. Absolutely. I mean, and it just, there's nothing really to say about this. It's going to be interesting to see what penalties the NCAA delivers,
especially
to Michigan.
School. That school didn't need that.
No.
They didn't need that. What are they, ranked third right now?
Yeah, I think they're definitely top four. They're definitely a playoff team as of right now. So
here's a great distraction for your team who's in the running for the national championship already.
Yeah.
Which you probably didn't need to cheat to do, to be fair.
Yep.
Right. I hope Penn State wipes the road with him this weekend.
Well, I mean, I think that's the other thing too, is like, could a penalty be like, there are people who are calling for them to be disqualified from the college football playoff this year.
There's a precedent for it. Why not?
Yeah.
Why
Absolutely.
not? If you're caught cheating, you should not be able to compete in the championship.
Absolutely.
You should be right out of that ranking.
What's interesting is then who right now the team that was ranked number 5 going into this week, Washington, who beat USC. And we're going to get into that a little bit. That would then move them into the playoff, right? Like suddenly now, like this could have huge ramifications for months, if not years to come. So it's something we're going to keep an eye on there's no excuse for cheating. Like you're just idiots. You're idiots.
I just think that anytime, I'm going to say this one more time, right? We love sports because it's so pure. It's you against me. It's us against you, my team versus your team. When you mess with that purity, you just ruin it. You ruin it. Whether you get caught or not, you've ruined it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being part of a team that won a championship and had something like that I knew in the back of my mind.
Yeah. It's an asterisk next to it.
And I guess people will say, well, when there's all that money on the line, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know,
man. Yep. I don't know either. But what I do know is again, going back to the Washington USC game, this was interesting. There's been a lot of very interesting commentary on this. Caleb Williams, of course, the superstar quarterback for USC, arguably going to be the number 1 pick possibly in the NFL draft this coming year. And we'll get into that, where I really believe there's 4 quarterbacks in NCAA right now who could go top 5.
Ray, do you hear that? The G-Man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we're going to get into the Giants taking one of them. We're going to get into that. But you had 2. This was a great matchup because you had 2 of those guys. You had Michael Penix Jr. for Washington, number 5 Washington, against USC. And to set the stage here, USC already has 2 losses, a loss here to Washington. Probably that's it. There's no chance for them making the playoffs. The season's done. It's also, you have 2 top Heisman candidates, right? In Williams and Penix Jr. going head to head. And Washington in an offensive blowout, not a blowout, an offensive shootout, 52-42, Washington wins. The difference in the game ended up being Williams lost a fumble late in the second half that led to an extra touchdown for Washington, and then they ended up winning by 10. So, but basically neither defense could stop the other offense aside from that 1 turnover. But aside from that being a great game, what people were talking about as soon as that game ended, Caleb Williams ran from the sideline, ran into the front row of the stands where his mom and I believe a brother or a cousin, I'm not sure, were there, and he started crying. And he had his mom consoling him over this loss. The brother or someone, I'm not who the other family member was, tried to block it, tried to cover it, because immediately people are saying it's a bad look. This is terrible. This is going to hurt his draft stock. He's not a leader. He can't emotionally handle these big moments, and just completely tearing the kid apart. And of course, then there's the other side saying, no, this just shows how much he cares. This shows how much the game means to him. This shows that he's also aware that, yes, things that he wanted, like a national championship and a Heisman, have probably literally just slipped through his fingers, and not really all his fault, because he played great, but his defense played terribly, right? Lee, what are your thoughts on the Caleb Williams crying gate that they're calling this, about him running into the stands to his mother?
Well, this is the big, ugly stigma of mental health sticking its head up once again. Mm-hmm. Anyone who thinks that he didn't realize that everyone's watching is crazy. He knows what's going on. He didn't care. All right. Because he is mentally strong enough to understand what he needed in that moment. Now, I'll tell you this too, Ray. I'll kind of go full circle with this. When I was younger, which was a different time, different era, I might have said, why would you go crying to your mom like that? Right. Yeah. As I've grown, as I've matured, I have no problem that he did this. Right. Like, that's what he needed to console himself in that moment. He wanted to be with his family in that moment, which we should be celebrating. Ray, as you know, look, I lost my mother just over 2 months ago. All right. I would do anything to run into her arms again right now. Right. Yeah. And I don't have that option. So anyone who feels comfortable running to their parent, and any parent that can be there for their child, if we look at that as weakness, I won't say the word that just came through my head, but we're screwed. It's not weakness. All right. What they should be judging is not what he did after the game. It's what is he going to do in the next game? Because that defines who he is. He comes back in the next game with everything off the line, like you said, or potentially not as strong as it was, and he responds. That's what affects draft status to me. Mm-hmm. All right. But when you're in the position I'm in and you realize you might not ever get to do that again, or you can't ever do that again, it changes your perspective pretty quickly on something like this. But honestly, critics kill me, Ray. It's like, I think of Allen Iverson when he's at Georgetown and all the strife he got into and how it affects his draft status. We're looking at the wrong things, right? He's not emotionally tough enough. He was emotionally tough enough to know that the cameras were on him, and he still did that.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it. I don't have a problem with it. I think that the fact that people are focusing on that is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to see emotion from your players after a loss like that.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing. I have been on both sides of this as an athlete, celebrating in front of people crying and the person crying because we just lost. Yeah. I said another bad word. It hurts. It hurts. When you come that close to something, when you come that close to glory and you don't get it, it hurts. All right. You always got to keep it in perspective. Don't get me wrong. You always got to be thankful you're in that position, but it hurts.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's that big a deal. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of bonehead general managers in the NFL who, they probably not. Right. So I'll say this. I hope the Giants get Caleb Williams or Drake May or Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix, who I believe are all top 5 worthy quarterbacks right now in the NFL draft coming up this year. And that brings us in the NFL because Giants season's over.
Sorry, that's my NFL sound.
Giants season's over.
Done. Over. Out of the division. It looks like, Ray, unless I'm jinxing us, we're going to have our first NFC East repeat champion in in 20 years.
Yes, the Eagles handled business against the Cowboys. A little bit with the Cowboy, a couple of Cowboy self-inflicted wounds with Dak forgetting where the sideline is. And,
oh my God!
And throwing the ball short. And there's to be fair.
I'm going to say something real quick. Skip Bayless, who just sucks.
Yeah,
came out the other day and he was just like, we all know the Cowboys should have won that game, and they didn't because they made some mistakes. Exactly.
Yeah.
The Eagles found a way to win.
Yeah.
That's what good teams do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Dallas is a bad team in any way.
No.
But that's the difference. That is the difference. You'll play us again. I have said on an early episode, we will probably split that season series.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, I'm prepared for that mentally. But Skip, you suck. And I really wish you would get off the air. I just the Eskins of the world and the Baylesses of the world. I mean, I'm gonna give what's his name a little free credit here because he just laughs every time the Cowboys lose. Stephen A. Smith, and as a non-Cowboys fan, I find that very funny. All right, but even he is a little bit. Skip, you suck, and it's time to retire. I'm so convinced your opinion is just what's gonna get the best reaction.
Yeah,
I'm so convinced that I don't think you have any opinions that matter in the sport anymore. Go away.
Yeah.
I'm not usually this critical of broadcasters, but I just can't stand irresponsible stuff like, we all know the Cowboys should have won that game. If the Cowboys should have won the game, they would have won the game.
Yeah.
You sound like a damn fool when you say it wrong. There's a little geekdom mixed in with the sports.
Yeah.
It's about as funny as a screen door on a battleship. Screen door on a submarine, you dope.
Oh,
God,
goodness.
He sucks.
Yeah, he's terrible. But yeah, no, it's I mean, look, the Eagles are flying high. They are the only 8-1 team in the NFL right now. They are at least a game and a half up, I think, actually, for the number 1 seed, 2.5 in the division.
Win. That is what they do so well. Yeah. To the point now that a QB sneak has become a controversial play in the league. That's how much they're finding a way to win. Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to go all the way. I'm saying they're good. What's nice, Ray, is they're going into a bye week, and no matter what happens, we're still going to be the number 1 seed in the NFL after this weekend coming up.
Right.
That's an amazing place to be in.
Yeah, there's nothing anybody else can do to touch us at this point. But it's gonna be interesting to see this down the stretch.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I gotta say it. This is injury permitting, right? There's a lot of things that can go wrong,
of course,
in a situation like this. But man, talk about a team that's finding ways to win week in and week out. And I want to say this too, because when we lost to the Jets a few weeks ago, we talked about this. Yeah. That Jalen Hurts, Jason Kelsey, they're all like, we're just going to flush this one. It was a horrible game. Yeah. We talked about response earlier. Man, did they respond? Yeah. Right. You had a horrible game against the Jets. Responded 2 weeks in a row.
Yep.
It's amazing. Amazing how that works.
And that's what you got. That's what you have to do as a good football team. It's things are heating up in the NFL, but that's definitely going to be an interesting thing to see what happens there. But we mentioned Dallas's mistakes, and a lot of that also comes down to coaching. An interesting rumor that has cropped up now the last couple of days is that Bill Belichick, and it sounds like the Patriots are ready to move on from Bill Belichick. It also sounds like there are other teams around the league that would be interested in Mr. Belichick's services. Now, of course, though, as he's under contract with the Patriots, much like how the Broncos had to trade with the Saints to get Sean Payton. We've seen this before with the Bucs trading for John Gruden all those years ago.
They all worked out.
Well, the Gruden for the Bucs one did work out.
The Gruden one definitely worked out, yeah.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out long term. But yes, it did work out for the Bucs.
Right. In the short term, it worked out. But it's definitely one of those things where now suddenly a couple other teams in the NFC East, specifically the Washington Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys, maybe could be interested, depending on how the season shakes. I mean, Washington obviously is going to get rid of Ron Rivera, right? They destroyed their defensive line at the trade deadline, sending one to Chicago hoping they can re-sign Sweat, and then also taking the Niners taking a flyer on the oft-injured Chase Young for a draft pick to try to fix their pass rush, which until they get another defensive coordinator will not get fixed soon. But that's a whole other story, not necessary right now. But I can give you the deep analysis on why the 49er defensive the rush is not what it was the last couple of years. It's because they have a new coordinator and he's not as good as DeMarco Ryans or Robert Saleh.
Are you trying to insinuate, Ray, that coaching matters?
I know, right? What a concept.
What a freaking concept, Ray.
Yes. So, but Lee, if the Cowboys were to be the team because that's the rumor, if that Mike McCarthy's another one and done, right? It looks like Dallas will make the playoffs as a wild card team again. But if they're out in the wild card round, if they're out in the second round, divisional round, do they get rid of Mike McCarthy as another lame duck coach who's really never been able to put it together and bring in a Bill Belichick, considering Dallas has a tremendously talented team, and it hasn't been Bill's fault completely that the Patriots have stunk. It's that the talent that is there now is definitely not the talent that was there in the past. Lee, what are your thoughts on the possible Bill Belichick trade rumors?
So there's a few of them. Number one, this all depends on if Belichick even wants to go. They're not gonna make him do anything he doesn't want to do. He's earned that right. So that's number one. So Bill has to see within a team the position that they can succeed with him there. Right. He's not going to go anywhere where he doesn't see that. Mm-hmm. I think Dallas has a little more of that than the Commanders do today.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think the Commanders are looking to build the right way, which could be very, very attractive to a Bill Belichick, depending on what they want to do and this conversations with the owners. That's number one. The second part of this is both the Commanders and Dallas and 31 other teams in the league would probably fire their coaches in a heartbeat if Bill Belichick said, I want to go coach there. Within reason. Right.
Right.
So you have the conversation. I'll put it that way. So I don't know. It depends on what Bill sees in Dallas, right? Yeah. Does he think he can take that team to a Super Bowl? He's not going to do anything in second place. The only thing I can think about with the Commanders is if it's presented to Belichick of, look, 3 to 5 year contract, you build the team.
Yeah.
He might be very interested in that if he's got the endurance. I also think that he just needs to take a year off. Right. That's my personal thing with him. He's been coaching for his whole life, basically.
Yeah.
Right. So take a year off and come back. Like, he clearly needs a break.
Yeah.
Right. That's my opinion. All right. And look, maybe he takes a year off and doesn't want to come back. I don't know. I just think that guy needs a year off. But no, I don't think Dallas moves on from their coach unless Belichick's like, yeah, I'll come. I don't think that anybody's gonna do that. Commanders are gonna hire someone. If the Commanders are smart, they're not gonna bring in a Belichick though. They're gonna bring in a young coach who can coach young guys and kind of jump on that trend now of the NFL coaches. The younger coaches are succeeding.
Yes.
Right. And I think that Washington's best bet is to take a slow 2 to 3 year approach and build this team the right way.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting also is that the coaches who seem to be succeeding the most have actual NFL experience.
Right.
I mean, DeMarco Ryans is a perfect example down in Houston. And now, of course, this past week, one Antonio Pierce, the new coach of the Raiders, destroyed the Giants. But the thing is because
ugly.
It was a terrible game. I was there in person.
Yeah, Ray was in Vegas at that game. We should discuss that a little bit. How was it? Is Reliant Stadium awesome or no?
Allegiant Stadium's beautiful.
That's what I said. Allegiant.
It is a beautiful stadium. I'll continue to say this. Every football stadium that I go to now, I makes SoFi look worse and worse here in LA.
SoFi is horrible. Yeah.
SoFi is not. Look, folks, it's an event venue. It's not a football stadium.
Right.
You go to Arizona, that is the Cardinal Stadium that, sometimes they'll do a concert there. You go to Allegiant, that is the Raiders Stadium, the big Al Davis, Eternal Torch is there, Raiders, everything silver and black. It is a football stadium that sometimes does other events.
Lincoln Financial Field.
Sure, exactly. I haven't been to the old Giant Stadium, used to be like that. It's funny, I've been to almost as many.
You haven't been to MetLife?
I haven't been to MetLife.
Wow. Well, I mean, depending on the day, it's Giants or Jets, but it is a football stadium.
Well, that's good. I mean, because I haven't been there, and all I've heard is terrible things about it.
It's just a big monstrosity of a stadium, but it's a football stadium. Just to prove your point.
SoFi looks like a fancy art installation that has seats on the inside.
Yeah, it's very LA.
Yes, it is. It is plastic and fake and has no personality whatsoever.
This is the truth from what Ray is saying. 31 teams have a football stadium. The Rams have a venue, and Taylor Swift has all of them.
Actually, it's 30 teams because remember the Rams and Chargers share SoFi, and they
don't
both
correct
suck.
me when I'm wrong, Ray. It's unprofessional.
They both stink. Yeah, no, it's because I'll say this: SoFi was great for WrestleMania. SoFi was great for some of the gaming stuff that I've been there for. It's not great for a football game, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's fine. It's meh. It's whatever. You're better go off going to the Rose Bowl. You're going to some of the college stadiums in the LA area to see college football. It's still a college football town. That's what happens when you don't have pro football for 30 years. So, but yeah, the Giants stink. The season's over. Daniel Jones blew out his knee. We're down to our third string quarterback. Tommy DeVito threw his first career touchdown pass. He looked halfway decent. But the Giants, they're not going to win with your third string quarterback. The defense got tired, and the Raiders, Antonio Pierce was like, Josh McDaniels is an idiot and doesn't know what he's talking about. This is Raiders football, and this is how we're going to win. And lo and behold, the Raiders came out and have put out one of their best game, the best game they've had since before McDaniels came in as coach. You got to remember, John Gruden got fired in that email scandal. Rich Bisaccia took over, rallied that team, rallied those players. The Raiders made the playoffs 2 years ago. And then Mark Davis, the owner, Chucky with the bowl haircut, fired him for who knows what reason. I don't know. Taking the playoffs wasn't good enough. They bring in McDaniels because I like him. I like the cut of his jib. I like he's an offensive guy. And the Raiders have been one of the worst offensive teams in the league under Josh McDaniels. Antonio Pierce, former player, former Super Bowl champion with the Giants, who, by the way, brought that up in a team meeting, and then Josh McDaniel was like, don't you ever talk about the Patriots like that again. Man. Josh McDaniels should never coach the NFL ever again. I'm going to say that. Never mind, not even an offensive coordinator position. He should never be allowed near NFL players ever again because this is a guy who doesn't understand what it means to be a player. Pierce rallied those troops. They had the most rushing yards they've had in a year and a half. They absolutely obliterated. And the Giants aren't a bad defense.
No, they have a great defense.
Coming into that game against the Raiders, the Giants defense gave up 14,
you know what,
7,
I'm going to look them up right now.
Points.
As of today, NFL defense rankings. I bet you they're higher up than anybody realizes.
That's actually good. Maybe not after this last week, but the Giants defense, I mean, the problem is the Giants went 1-2 in those 3 games, despite giving up less than 2 touchdowns or less for all 3 of those games. And the Raiders select us. I'm going to say it right now. The Raiders are going to get the last playoff spot in the AFC. I'm going to say it right now. Again, after beating the Giants, the Raiders are 4-5. I think the Raiders are going to go 6-2 the rest of the way. They'll finish with 10 wins, and they're going to get a playoff spot. Because even though right now they're a game and a half behind the Bengals, Browns, and Steelers, all those teams still have to play each other. They're going to knock each other off. That's going to open the door. And I'm going to say it right now. The Raiders are going to be that last team in the AFC.
I wouldn't be surprised, Ray. I'm looking at these defensive rankings now. These are based on defensive yards average, like yards against, and the Giants are sitting at 21. Keeping in mind that like the Eagles are 13, right? The number one team is the Browns, so this might not be the best tell here. But when I look at this too, when I look at the Giants points against, it's 25 touchdowns allowed. And that's not bad when I'm looking at a lot of some of these other stats. Like they're right there with the rest of the league.
Right. The problem is that the Giants have the worst offense in football.
Right.
They score 10 points a game. And that's the sad thing.
I think you agree with me on this, that the Giants are probably 3 to 4 offensive moves away from being a very good football team. And this is one of those things of it comes with coaching too, but you make the right moves, the right pieces, the right people can totally change a franchise. Now, obviously, the biggest hole there is quarterback. And whatever you do here, you have an opportunity now, and I fully expect you to tank the rest of the season to get one of those that is draft picks.
The Giants will have a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And because of that, they'll have one of the 4 quarterbacks I mentioned earlier available to them.
Which is exactly what they need to do right now.
And that's it. You take one of those guys, preferably for me, I actually would go Michael Penix. I would go Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and I would go Drake May 4th. That's personally me for the way the Giants are built right now.
And the way the draft works, you're probably going to get one of those that you want. Not just because of your draft position, but some of these other teams that are tanking, they have quarterbacks.
Well, and that's the thing is that right now, the Cardinals would be the number 1 pick. The Cardinals probably will take a quarterback.
Of course, yeah.
Then the Bears, because remember the trade with the Carolina, the Bears get both their pick and the Panthers pick. The Panthers are also terrible, so the Bears could be 2 and 3.
Right.
The question is, do they move on from Justin Fields? If they do, obviously they're not going to spend both picks on quarterbacks.
Well, unless they pull a draft day thing and they go, I'm going to take 2 quarterbacks if you don't trade us this. And
well, I mean, that
probably won't happen.
I was going to say they could do a thing where they obviously trade one of those picks. There's possible moves. And then the Giants right now would be the 4th pick.
Right.
Somebody's going to be there for them if this is the way everything finishes out. So, and then you have picks now from Seattle because you traded Leonard Williams for draft picks. You need 1 or 2 more offensive linemen, preferably a tackle and maybe another guard, and you need a legit number 1 receiver. And then to Lee's point, the Giants might not suck next year.
Right. Well, they'll be in the hunt. That's what we should say.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. They'll be in the hunt because, again, most of this defense is coming back.
Right.
So, but yeah. So there's an interest. Mentioned the trade deadline. A couple more quick football stories we want to get to. Josh Dobbs, who hadn't taken a single snap under center in Minnesota, was traded from Arizona to Minnesota and then makes the game-winning drive to beat the Falcons and put Minnesota right now into the 7th seed in the NFC. They would make the playoffs if the season ended today. Lee, how about the Pastronaut, as they're calling him, because he does have
he's a rocket scientist.
He's an actual rocket scientist.
I just want everybody listening, wake up if you fell asleep. This quarterback is a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Okay. I've only seen that one other time in the history of sports. And believe it or not, I was in NHL. Peter Bondra, the old captain of the Washington Capitals, was also a rocket scientist. It's just not a thing you hear too often.
Yeah. Lee, what are your thoughts on Dobbs going from Arizona to Minnesota and pulling off that last-minute win against the Falcons?
Oofda, Minnesota. Look, here's the deal. What I'm most impressed with, it's not just him. I'm very impressed with him. It's how that team rallied around each other, came together, found a way to win. This guy, there's no way he understood the scheme. It sounded like, too, that the headset was very active that day. But what I'm most impressed with, Ray, is, again, how the team operated, but that this guy took a chance. He had his chance, and he took it, and he rose to the occasion. And again, we don't have stories like this too often. It's a rare thing, right? But you love to see it. Again, I will also say what I said earlier, because I talked about how the response really defines who you are. That works both ways. It's not just when bad things happen. It's when good things happen too. But even if it was just a one-time thing, which I don't think it's going to be, you got a great display of sportsmanship, a great display of athleticism, a great display of intelligence and team play to win a game. I think that's the coolest thing in the world, especially with the type of coaching that I do. So I just really loved the way the team rallied around him to make that a success. And I think it's a great example for other teams as well.
Yeah, and the Vikings themselves are rallying. I thought the Vikings were dead in the water. They've won, I think, 3 in a row now, and suddenly, like I said, right now they're in playoff position. Right, they're still probably it's going to be hard for them to catch the Lions for the division, but they're at least in playoff position in a weak conference in the NFC. And then once you're in, who knows what happens? So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out as the Vikings are on the rise. Who's not on the rise? The Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, they're having a tough go right now.
The Dolphins are 6-0 against sub 500 teams, and they are 0-3 against teams that are above 500. And when that trend continued this week in Germany, when the Chiefs, Das Chiefs, beat the Dolphins 21-14. The Chiefs jumped out to a 21-0 lead. The Dolphins did everything they could to get back into that game, but some late turnovers, a fumbled snap by Tua, and that doomed them. Then now both teams obviously are going to go on the bye, because any team that goes to Europe gets their bye the following week, so that they can recover from a very long trip across the pond.
Right. It is long.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if you're on a private jet, or they've paid for everything, it might be a very nice trip across the pond.
That's true. It's not it's not as bad as like us flying coach to Germany. But all in all, the game seemed like a success for the NFL. And even though it wasn't a success for the Dolphins, when Mike McDaniels was very impressed with the German press corps there. And the press corps in Germany has actually impressed us a lot the last couple of years with their knowledge of American football. And it only got better when they basically talked about the evolution of Mike McDaniel's offense, Lee.
Yeah, and you can see this full clip on my personal Instagram at Liam J. Elias with my thoughts on it. But Ray, what I loved about it was that great questions demand great answers.
Yes.
All right. And this reporter was knowledgeable, was asking great questions. The point McDaniel was like, this is amazing that you're asking great questions.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to talk about with this, Ray, because when you go to another country, or I'm saying when a professional American sports team comes to your country, you got to kind of do it the right way, right? We've seen this done the wrong way too, but I think it's a lesson to American journalists that this gotcha, get a coach pissed off, stupid questioning nature does you no favors. Yeah. And that knowledgeable, great questions not only does educate the audience, which is your freaking job, right? But the coaches actually get this right. They answer the question.
Yeah. And
they're impressed that you know. So when I watch anything and I hear a journalist, I'm putting quotations up.
Yeah.
Go like, do you think the team's going to be hurt that they lost 2 games in a row? Do you think that's bad for the team? I mean, this is the kind of crap you got to listen to. This is why I don't like press conferences in this country.
Yeah.
They're incredibly horrible questions.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to focus on. Great questions demand great answers. This is a knowledgeable, great question, demanded a great answer. And guess what? The guy got a great answer, right? Studied the team. I mean, McDaniel was impressed with the question.
Well, because he's talking about the wheel routes with the running backs and the evolution of like Mike Shanahan.
Right. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
I didn't know all that. I'm like, this guy's teaching me. That's it, people. That's the goal. Your job is to report and educate. You schmucks.
Well, and that's the problem is that you mentioned it is that journalism in this country has become just clickbait, wannabe BS. And,
that's God, the thing. It's just gotcha crap.
Yeah, it's all about feelings and it's all about trying to get a rise out of people.
Did you see that he hugged his mother? I have a mother. Did you hug your mother? What are we doing? We're devolving. What are we doing?
I think that's the point. I think we are devolving. I think we are becoming dumber as a people, Lee. I'm not gonna lie.
It's the electrolytes. It's what plants need. It just kills me. Yeah, right. It's just like, so many reporters are just trying to get to the front to do that. You really want to impress a coach, be knowledgeable about the sport. Like I see in hockey all the time. I don't see people even ask about the strategies, the tactics, the systems that they play. Like now I know what those are, obviously. I would love a great question of, hey, the 1-1-3 is not working. You thinking about trying another system, or is this something you want to evolve throughout the season? Wow, that's a great question. I think I would have loved to get. Now, I don't want to give away too much of the answer because other teams may be watching my press conference, but you can ask questions whenever you want.
Yeah.
Learn, you morons.
Yeah.
God, the media in this country just sucks.
Except for Geeks Who Like Sports.
That's not media. That's home.
Yes. Your podcast home for geekdom and sportsdom.
Yes. And judgmental thoughts about the Giants.
Very judgmental thoughts about the Giants.
And
the Yankees. Yes.
Anyway, we wanted to call out the reporter for doing a great job. And I think we should all ascend to that. It shouldn't just be about being right or wrong or making controversial takes. Skip Bayless, you moron.
Yes.
All right. It should be and again, if just going back to the football thing again, man, if that guy had any respect, Skip Bayless, or he really cared, he wouldn't have defended the Cowboys. Yeah. I mean, it was just so lame, right? Yeah. This guy, I don't even know his name, sir, who I believe is English. Press corps in Germany, we salute you.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Wing.
The foreign press corps is doing a much better job than the American press corps. Absolutely. Real quick, that brings up another thing I wanted to mention. And I'm going to try and squeeze it in here. Did you see the thing going on about Eric Armstead, the linebacker for the 49ers, because he showed off his game check on social media last week?
No, you should tell me about it.
Yes. So Eric Armstead, the high caliber, Pro Bowl caliber linebacker for the 49ers, he's not trying to make a statement. He's trying to educate people on the business side of the NFL, to remind people that this is a business. Armstead,
I did see this, but tell the audience. I know what you're talking about now.
Is very, I mean, like a lot of great players, is very well paid. And he gets $400,000 per game. That's his game check, $400,000. He then showed on social media that half of that goes to taxes. Variety of taxes, right? Social Security goes to Medicare, we all pay taxes in this country, right? And most other countries too, I'm sure. For our international audience. We all have to pay our taxes. Half of it goes back. And a lot of people were flipping out because they're like, how are you okay paying this much tax? You're being robbed. This is ridiculous. Folks, it used to be that the folks who made that much money paid a lot more in taxes. Right. And the people who make the most money should pay their fair share. Not to get political, folks, but I'm going to tell you this. If I got paid $400,000 a week, but I had to pay half the taxes, I'd be okay with that because I should definitely live on $200,000 a week. Who cannot live on $200,000 a week? I don't understand why you're mad when he's not mad. By the way, he's not mad. He's like, this is me paying my fair share. That he's just showing you this is how much goes to taxes. And again, there's different tax rates in different states. That's why some folks go to Florida. Florida doesn't have a state tax on your income, right? There are other states where it's a different percentage. California obviously happens to be a little higher than most, especially for those higher tax brackets. I don't understand why people are flipping out and saying that he's being robbed when he doesn't feel robbed and he feels that he's just paying his fair share because that's what he's doing. Lee, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I hate taxes, Ray.
Nobody likes taxes.
No, look. Again, to not turn this into politics, who like sports. Everyone should have to pay their fair share of taxes. I think this is a perspective issue, and that I think it's very easy to ignore other perspectives. This is the little challenge I'll do for everybody listening. If you really care about this debate, I want you to guess in your mind right now what the median household income is. And then I want you to look it up. And I will almost guarantee you whatever you think is wrong. And the number will shock you.
Yeah.
And that is why we all need to.
I'll give you a hint, folks. It's pretty damn low.
Yeah. And I will also say this. The other side of this, which is unfortunate, is that I don't trust the people getting the money to spend it wisely either.
Well, that's a whole other. That is a whole other.
That's a whole other thing. But we should be supporting each other, and I think the people that control that money don't do that.
Yes,
and that's not a party thing, by the way.
No, our taxes are supposed to go to infrastructure and schools and education and healthcare and things that make everybody's lives better. That's what we're going to have to
send this clip to Dan Saunders, who will have an opinion on it. A good friend of ours from college.
Yes,
and he will decide, Ray, what is right and what is wrong with what we are saying, because he is the geek who likes politics.
Yes.
Dan, there's your new show right there. Geeks Who Like Politics.
Yes.
Good luck getting to the geek section on that one.
But yeah, I think that showing the business side, I think that Armstead, first off, is doing a great job of trying to educate people on the business side of the NFL, because it is oftentimes forgot. But again, I think, Lee, you put it perfectly. This is a perspective. People who have a problem with this maybe lack the perspective necessary to understand what he's trying to say and show here. Yeah, and it's not what they're saying.
This is the last thing I'll say about it too, Ray, is a few things people have to remember. One is that we as a society have decided that football players and baseball players are worth this much money, right? We've decided that by giving them lots and lots of money. So that's number one. The other thing I should say too is that I am not against rewarding people's success. When you're homegrown or you make a lot of money, you've earned it. With that said, I don't know if billionaires make sense. When you look up that median household income, you'll see why. Now, I'll also say a lot of the billionaires give a lot more than most people will in a lifetime. It's
not every billionaire.
It's a vicious cycle, what we're talking about. It could go a lot of different directions. But that's my homework for everybody listening. Just take a minute, pause the episode, go look up the median household income. All right. And then, you can look up the annual household income, and his taxes don't even cover it. So just a lot of changes could happen on that front. Yeah. This has been your daily dose of perspective with me, Lee.
Yes. Well, thank you for that, my friend.
I mean, sound effect.
Speaking of folks who don't have perspective, James Harden was just traded from.
A great transition. Oh, it's not my problem anymore. Not our problem.
That is true. He is in Los Angeles now. He a person perfect for La La Land.
That's very true, Ray.
James Harden, who by the way got absolutely obliterated by my Knicks in his Clipper debut. The Knicks won, I think, by like 25 or something, as the Clippers fall to, I think, 3-3. The Knicks improved to 3-4. Still very early in the season, but I was very happy that we beat up on James Harden and his Clippers. But yeah, the 76ers trade Harden to the Clips. Lee, how are you feeling as a 76ers fan? Because I think this is the best move you guys have made in several years.
Look, the Sixers are, as of this recording, 5-1. So they were obviously okay without him. I got to say this, right? I don't know fully what has gone on behind closed doors with that situation. I think it was handled poorly by every side. But I give the Sixers, the team, credit for being 5-1 right now. And it really, in a way, dropped Harden's value, I think, in the sense of like, look, if you don't want to be here, we don't need you. So kind of wish him the best of luck, but this is such a messy situation. From my point of view, it's the distraction of the situation. I'm not necessarily calling him the distraction, but the distraction of that situation is gone. The Sixers are in their window, right? This is probably the final year of that window. I mean, the amount of trade talk surrounding Embiid right now is kind of disheartening, right? This is their year to win. They have off to a great, great start. So we'll see what happens.
We will indeed. Also just got off to the start. The in-season tournaments got off to
a
start.
I'm really loving it. I'm actually really intrigued by it and the way they're doing it. And I know you and I disagree on this a little bit because of one solid hardwood aspect.
Yes, I think those neon courts are a freaking eyesore. I think
I think you're an eyesore, Ray. I think you're an eyesore.
You're not the first person to tell me that, Lee. So
well, God damn it, I'm glad we're friends.
I mean, look, I think I'm still the jury's still out on the in-season tournament. It's still obviously way too early to judge it.
I think it's a great idea. The more I think about it, the more I love it. And the more I think the NBA is doing something really special here. I'm going to say it again, like I said a few episodes ago. Certain teams are going to be in this thing that are not going to be strong playoff teams. And I think it's going to be good. I like where they're going. And Ray, I like the neon courts. I think some are better than others. I think some of them hit the mark and some of them missed the mark. But I'll tell you what, I turned on the TV and I was like, oh, this is one of the tournament games. It's brilliant marketing. They did a good job with it. It's something different. I think you traditionalist morons are going to hate it because it's different. And I think it's great. And that's my final take. I am Lee Elias on Geeks Who Like Sports, fan of the neon courts that do hurt your eyes if you're sitting very close.
I was going to say, I think the neon courts have burned an image into my television.
Yeah.
I think for what, because I watched
a new TV, right?
I
just got a new TV.
I just got a new TV.
I like them. I'm not against them. I'm going to say it again. Some are better than others. For sure.
For sure.
All right.
For sure.
But I like that they've signified this is one of the tournament games. I think that's pretty cool.
That is a good point, that it does make it instantly recognizable that this is a special game for the tournament. But it definitely, I don't know. I think some of those courts, they just hurt my eyes. And
I'll tell you what, man, I'd love to see hockey do something like this. I think it's really cool. I think that the NBA and the NHL should really consider this replacing the All-Star game.
That I'm all for. Definitely. I think that is a good idea for a solution for the All-Star game. I'm on board for that.
You can still have All-Star teams.
Yeah.
If you really want to have a game, do it after the season.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah. I think this is pretty cool. I'm being honest with you.
It's an interesting idea. Again, the jury is still out. It's still too early to tell.
Way too early. Yeah. I will give you that.
But yeah.
When the final happens in Vegas. Now, will they call this the final or the finals? We'll find out.
Yeah, we will find out. The tournament finals.
Again, this has been a disagreement between hockey and basketball for years. In hockey, for those of you who are new to the show, it is the Stanley Cup final. And in the NBA, it is the NBA finals. Now, grammatically, the NHL is correct.
Right.
But I think the NBA has been calling it the finals for so long. And someone tried to make the argument, well, there's multiple games. Yes, games. Right. But there is only one
series.
Final. Yeah, that's it. All right.
Right.
Now, when you say the divisional series, the championship series, plural, right?
Right.
This is just me saying hockey's better. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well,
hockey is correct.
Grammatically, hockey is correct. Though we talked earlier about those statements and images preceding horrible things. The San Jose Sharks on their TikTok predicted is like 80 before the season started. 82-0 starts now.
Well, I mean, look, technically, they could still do that with the numbers.
Sure, they could technically do the reverse.
Yeah, the 0-82 is possible right now.
Yes, right now the Sharks are 0-11-1.
Oh, brutal.
They are by far the worst team in hockey. And they play the Flyers tonight.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to keep my mouth shut for at least, the next 7 hours.
But Lee, what's up with the Sharks? Will they get a win? What's going to happen? And then, I mean, they're going to be the worst team in the league by far this year. What happens if they don't win the lottery in the summer?
They won't win the lottery.
They have to, right?
They will not win the lottery because the lottery sucks. Period. Look, there's a lot going on there from a talent standpoint. There's a lot going on there from a cap standpoint. Yeah. And they're really suffering now from moves they made 5-10 years ago when they were really the dominant team that they were. But yeah, look, that's a tough start. They're not going to go 0-50 or anything like that. They'll find ways to win.
Right.
Hopefully not tonight, but they will find ways to win. But changes are coming there. They'll be picked apart at the trade deadline. And I'm not a big fan of the draft lottery, Ray. I don't think it. Yeah. I don't like it. I don't think it's right. I understand why they made it so teams wouldn't tank, but I think there's other ways to do that.
Yeah. I think it's also like you have to recognize that when teams are just really, really bad and they're not tanking, but they're just really, really bad and they need help.
Yeah. Look, the Flyers. This is me talking as a fan. Flyers have fallen twice to that draft lottery when they really should have gotten different picks. Some people could say that they've also benefited from it. But I mean, it's tough to watch the number one pick go to somebody else when you really are the worst team in the league, or it's tough when you should be a top 3 pick and you move to 6 or 7. I mean, again, one player doesn't make or break the team typically. If you have a generational talent like a Bedard or a McDavid or a Crosby or Ovechkin, that's different.
Right.
But it's tough to watch it. The Sharks are having a really hard time, and we'll see what happens.
We will indeed see what happens tonight. Meanwhile, my Rangers will be taking on the Red Wings. Both of us off to very good starts. I think a little more surprising that the Red Wings are as good as they are. They've been building.
They quietly got very solid. They were really bad a few years ago, but they've made some really good moves. Like they have one of those really well balanced rosters without huge names.
Right.
So they're going to compete. Like they're nowhere near where they were, and the Rangers have to continue to compete, although they're having some issues themselves.
Yeah, a couple of injuries for the Rangers have cropped up, and I think just a really rough schedule early in the early going. Rangers have had six of the last 7 games have been on the road, which is obviously exhausting for a team. But the Rangers are back at the Garden tonight against the Red Wings. Red Wings 7-4-1, Rangers 8-2-1. One of our best starts in a long time. Let's see if they can continue it. Please continue it. Please, I need somebody to win. Please.
No sympathy, none.
I know. It's fine. That's fine. I still really need the Rangers to be good this year.
No.
I ain't going to get
the Rangers to be good this year. If the Rangers make the Cup final, you need to fly back to the East Coast.
Deal.
Sold.
Deal. Last thing in the sports realm as we transition to the Geeks, Ric Flair, the ageless one, signs a multi-year deal with AEW. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean to wrestle. He could be a producer. He could be a manager. He could be a trainer. He could do a lot of different things. Obviously, a wealth of wrestling information. But I can't imagine him being on the road very long. I mean, the dude is in his mid-70s now. He's had several health scares the last several years. It's still great to see him. He has been back on TV as Sting has announced his retirement in March, that March will be his final retirement. It'll be his retirement match. And so obviously Flair and Sting, their careers have been obviously intertwined. So Flair came back for him, but said that Flair will be here at AEW continuing beyond the Sting retirement match. And I imagine it's going to be more of a behind the scenes role. We cannot see Ric Flair die in the ring. Please, that would be the worst thing ever. I know that maybe it seems like that's what he wants because he keeps trying to get back into the ring. But please, I just hope they're just hiring him to pick his brain. I am glad he's still in wrestling. I'm glad, obviously, he's still around, but I also worry so much for him.
Yeah, I actually think this is one of those moves of, this is going to sound morbid, but I'm not trying to be funny, that if he's not involved in wrestling, he probably will die. Right, because it's so ingrained in his life, and you see this with people sometimes, right? When they have their life dedicated,
that's their identity, right? That's their identity.
They stop and they have nothing to go forward to. So I hope you're right. I hope it's a creative role. I hope it's a role that he can help them continue to move. But this is one of those time will tell things. He should not be in the ring. I agree with you about that. I mean, the guy bleeds if you look at him the wrong way. Yeah. So hopefully it's a good creative decision for AEW.
Yeah, I hope it works out. And obviously it's always great to see these legends obviously come back. And yeah, I think AEW is obviously doing a great job right now as WWE is just continuing to try to basically tread water. It feels like WWE is treading water to WrestleMania. That's what it feels like.
Well, like Logan Paul winning matches, and you don't like influencers.
Our new U.S. champion, Logan Paul.
Yeah. Can we just say real quick, I got to put this out there. There's a lot of posts out there right now that are saying that Logan Paul saved Rey Mysterio on a jump. And I'm going to put this right. He did not save Rey Mysterio. Logan Paul was in the wrong spot and quickly moved to catch Rey Mysterio. Which, if you want to say he saved him, sure, he was in the wrong spot. Now, keeping in mind too, he's only been wrestling for a short amount of time.
That's what it is. Logan Paul is he made up for his inexperienced mistake by being out of position, by catching Rey, and he did save Rey in that moment, only because he created. Exactly. Right. I think Steven Richards, a former WWE wrestler, actually broke this down perfectly and said the exact same thing.
Yeah, I don't like seeing these like Logan Paul saved Rey Mysterio is one of the best technical wrestlers in history.
Yeah,
he didn't make a mistake.
Yeah. Logan Paul, it starts with Logan Paul being out of position. Logan Paul corrected the mistake.
He did.
Logan Paul did a great job correcting the mistake.
Yeah, and he's doing a good job wrestling too. He's doing a good job.
He is not denying that he is a freak athlete, that he is good at being a wrestler and good at making everyone hate him. So he is the perfect wrestling heel.
He is in the right space at the right time, but he was not on that move.
No. So So again, good on him. Good on him for recognizing and correcting his mistake that almost killed Rey Mysterio.
I wanted to have that little mini clip here for people to hear it. Stop saying he saved them. Say it right. Unless Logan Paul's funding that with Prime and making sure that everybody's seeing it. I just don't agree with that. Let's call that what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a botch that he fixed. So.
Yeah. That's like saying that what's her name saved Travis Kelce's career. Right? I'm blanking on her name, and she's the Taylor Swift. Swift.
It's
like Swift really helped him with his career. It's the same level.
No, yeah. Travis Kelce was already a Pro Bowl, Super Bowl winning tight end. Like
multiple Super Bowl winning tight end.
Yeah. Yeah.
The pretty cool brother.
He's the Kelce's. Everybody loves the Kelce's. You can't not love the Kelce's.
It's one of my favorite podcasts right now.
Just because the Swifties are now finding out who the Kelce's are doesn't mean that they
existed
needed
before.
Them. Right.
And just so all the new Logan Paul wrestling fans know, Rey Mysterio has been wrestling a long time, and he has always been one of the best. I want to
say almost 30 years.
I'm going to say this too, and you'll agree, one of the best technical wrestlers I have ever
of all time. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Continuing the luchador tradition, amazing high flyer, some great storylines, former world champion. Yeah, absolutely. Goodness. Moving on now to the geek section.
Oh, let's do some fancy transition music. Here it comes. We don't know what they picked. They might not have put anything in there. It could have been an awkward silence. Yeah. But we do this for you, the listener, to make sure you're paying attention.
Producer Caitlin, she's on the ball.
She's watching. Probably. She's listening. She just thanked me for making her have to edit something into the episode. Note the time. This is the time where Caitlin gets mad at Lee.
There you go. She also producer Caitlin mentioned that we talked about mental health earlier. It is also men's mental health month.
Yeah,
November. Yes,
I have a mustache.
I used to have a mustache.
I remember your mustache. You wore that well.
Thank you.
Yeah, every time I saw you, I expected to be like, hello, Lee. You see? There we go. Welcome to Geeks Who Like Sports. Yeah.
So I've gone back. Yeah, Caitlin says I should grow it back. It's a mixed bag. Some people like me being clean shaven. Some people like me with the beard. So
yeah, when you're bald, you have to have a beard.
Right. Exactly. I still have my hair. I have the option of being clean shaven or not. So.
Yes, and that's where this conversation will end. Geeks Who Like Sports, brought to you by Rogaine.
I mean, if they wanted to sponsor us, sure.
Yes. Not only am I a member, but I'm a failed client.
And Caitlin mentioned, yes, it is funny. Yes, exactly. Caitlin Lee has no option.
I could grow it out. What I have, it's just gonna look ridiculous.
It's gonna look weird.
Yeah. Sometimes I want to do it just to see, and then here's a really quick story as we transition, Ray. When in the beginning of COVID, I actually had COVID early on, as you know, and for 2 or 3 weeks, my hair did grow out. And I noticed 2 things. One is that, wow, there's a lot more gray hair that I didn't know I had because I've been shaving my head for several years. And then the other thing was I can never do this again.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about getting COVID. I did do that again. I'm talking about letting my hair grow out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm starting to get there. We actually, a friend took a picture the other day. I had the bald spot here. It's just peach fuzz here, but yeah, it's getting there. A little sunroof.
Ways to correct that. You look good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So you know what else looks
You're
good?
You're an eyesore, Ray. No,
I am. Yeah, that's more.
That was a callback to earlier in the episode.
Yes,
that's another way to do a geek thing.
You know what is looking good though this week? Loki episode 5.
Oh, what a great! It might have been that might have been the best episode. Actually, these last 2 episodes might have been the best 2 episodes that Marvel's ever made.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's absolutely phenomenal. I argue that they should have ended the episode 30 seconds earlier.
Spoiler!
Oh yeah, spoilers.
So gotta follow our rules. Spoiler! If you haven't seen Loki episode 5, go watch it. Or if you don't care, keep listening.
Yeah, exactly. Or skip this. Go ahead a few minutes.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I feel they should have ended it 30 seconds sooner and cliffhangered us again.
I don't.
But they basically Loki. So we come back.
They did, but they didn't come with a cliffhanger. But yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Loki has started time slipping again. Basically, and he's the only person at the TVA. The explosion of the time loom has sent everybody back into their other lives, which is amazing. You find out that Casey was actually a real life guy who tried to escape from Alcatraz, that he's actually like a bank thief. Awesome. Yeah, Mobius, as we suspected, is a jet ski salesman.
With kids.
2
boys.
Yeah. B-15 was a doctor. Just really interesting. And basically, OB was he's a
science fiction writer
he was a PhD and a science fiction writer. Yeah, exactly.
Man after my own heart.
Yeah. Yeah, so it just was really interesting. And then, of course, Loki, because he had no really previous life, that's why he stayed at the TVA, and Sylvie went back to McDonald's. But Loki and Sylvie, remember what happened.
Ray, hold on. That's an assumption you just made. We don't know why Loki was left at the TVA. There could be a lot of reasons there when you unpack it. There's a reason he stayed there.
Well, and again, you kind of realize that as the episode goes on, it's because Loki needs the TVA and he needs the people there, because he comes to the realization as a character who thought it was stronger to be on your own, that no, my real strength comes from being with my friends. And he gets a hold of the time slipping as the entire universe starts to unravel. Literally everybody gets spaghettified, and Loki, kind of in a throwback to the God of Stories arc from the comics, where Loki kills himself, then reincarnates as a younger version of himself, and basically makes himself a hero. Kind of similarly, kind of feels like what they're doing here, where Loki is reincarnating himself as a hero, and he has control of the timeline to a degree. And the episode ends with him going back to just before the time loon explodes. Lee, I love what they're doing here. I think the character development of Loki over these 2 seasons has been phenomenal. He is now the most fully developed, realized character in all of Marvel, in my opinion. I think that they've written it beautifully. I think that all the characters are great. This is the best acting in any Marvel property. This is top to bottom the best thing I think Marvel has done since maybe like the first 2 Iron Man films.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I'd say since just Infinity War and Endgame.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, that stuff was great, but also I think there's also a little bit of spectacle there, where it's like, oh, everybody's coming in a little bit, and they really rely on it. Was great, but I think that from the heart of this,
right,
is the best that Marvel has, has had in a long time.
What they've done with this Loki, we should continue to say that, all right. Is that the process and the purpose of this show was to turn Loki from a villain to a hero. And that arc is almost complete.
Yes.
Right. And again, it's tough. You might not remember if you haven't watched season 1 in a while, but the whole season's, you always fail. You always make things worse than they are. You are the ultimate villain. Right. And at the end of that season, we see him transition for the first time from villain to hero when Sylvie rejects him. And ever since that moment, he has been trying to save people.
Yeah.
Now he seemingly has a power. As he says, I can change the story. Goes back to the TVA moments before Victor Timely is killed.
Yeah.
Once again, we have no idea where this is going to go.
Right.
Okay.
The God of Stories thought is just an assumption, because there's hints of that here.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If Marvel TV has shown us anything, and I'm gonna be a little conservative this time around, it's that this next episode is not going to be crazy and change the entire MCU forever.
Yeah.
That's what people want. And they could make decisions that reverberate to that point.
Yeah.
But I think this next episode is going to be very focused on Loki and the TVA and solving that problem. I would love to see a scene at the very end, Ray, where Loki reintroduces himself to Thor. That would be pretty cool. I'm back again. You know what I mean? And let me tell you what happened and why I'm a hero now.
Yeah.
Possibly taking Thor's place a little bit, because Thor's with Love now.
Right.
His daughter. Spoiler alert. But it's going to be really interesting to see where they go from here, and what I can change the story. I can control time slipping with this version of Loki. What does that mean? And I'm not even quite sure how Sylvie fits into this.
Yeah.
Or Renslayer. Like, I just don't know where it's going. And every episode has a massive heart, has a good time. I would say that episode 4 was exhilarating, but this was the best written episode so far this season.
Yeah.
I don't agree with you that it should have ended with everybody being spaghettified again.
Ended on the spaghettification.
Yeah, well, it's too much. It's the same thing 2 times in a row, and it's a little bit too much of a downer. But then when he slips right to that moment and it's cut, man, It's like, oh man, I cannot wait. And it's refreshing again to have to wait. I'm not gonna lie to you, but yeah, my prediction here, Ray, I don't think there's gonna be anything Marvel MCU shattering in this final episode. I think they're gonna solve the problem at the TVA. and set up something to move forward. And again, I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but this writing, acting, performance, show running, storyline is proof that superhero fatigue is bullshit.
Yeah.
We are fatigued with shit movies.
Right.
And bad writing and bad stories.
Yes.
Okay. No one got fatigued for 10 years.
Right.
You're putting crap out. That's what we're fatigued with, because this show is amazing.
Yeah.
We should also mention The Marvels comes out this Friday, and they're already touting it. And I hate this. This movie will change everything. Don't say that, you idiots. Don't say that.
It ain't going to change anything, I don't think.
Don't say that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's a bad thing to say, because when it doesn't, you just lied to us.
Yeah.
All right. I hope
people will be mad.
Good with all that said.
People gonna be mad. Yeah. No. Quick thought. Do maybe Loki and Sylvie or even Mobius become like the new timekeepers?
I think that they might be the Time Lords that we're seeing on the wall.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Because like, again, I think that that's been played up a few times. I keep showing that in the beginning, like in the callbacks. And I think that's a great idea that maybe those three take over, or that's they set up the robots. You got to keep in mind too, with time travel, which I love. I love time travel. I love time travel things. The beauty of time travel is that nothing is linear. So everything can be explained away. I still think there's more to Mobius' story that we don't know about.
Absolutely.
All right. I don't know if we're going to explore that, but I have no idea where the show's going. And I think it's brilliant. And it's like, it's very Loki, right? It's just, the god of mischief. The show is very mischievous.
Yeah.
Oh, and we got to talk just real quick. The Ouroboros, just unbelievable character. Just so well acted.
Yeah. Kei Kwan continues to just absolutely dominate and just chew up the scenery. And every scene he's in is fantastic. And we are so fortunate that he is back in Hollywood. So there's that. But of course, we talked about Victor Timely. Of course, he is a variant of Kang, or He Who Remains, I should say. And there have been a lot of rumors. Like, there's a massive article in Variety this week about Disney's kind of in trouble. They're very concerned because even with Bob Iger taking back over, things kind of haven't bounced back the way they've wanted to. They're not getting the subscriptions or the movie ticket sales or anything else that they were hoping to from some of these properties. And there was some massive blowback from Ant-Man 3, as we talked about, because Ant-Man 3 sucked. Again, it was poorly written. And I think it's kind of showing that there's not a great grasp of the characters. Right. Bob Iger was the one who said we're going to start slowing things down. And some other folks have said that the reason why the first three phases of Marvel was so good is that Kevin Feige would basically kind of let the directors kind of do what they want, kind of put it all out there, and then he would sit with the editors and kind of pare it down and make it into the 2.5 hour thing that would be so digestible and so good for us that we would love to see, right? Because they were churning out stuff at such a crazy rate, Feige hasn't been able to have his fingers in as much stuff. And so now we're getting a more raw and, quite frankly, worse product because of it. Everything's starting to suffer. So everything's starting to tie together. But because they're trying not to course correct as abruptly as they have with putting out all this stuff, there have been talks, and also hasn't helped the Jonathan Majors lawsuit, although now that sounds like that's going to get thrown out and he's going to be not guilty. But Disney either way doesn't even like it, that they're going to pivot away from Kang and accelerate their plans to getting to Dr. Doom. Lee, should they finish the Kang story, or should they just drop it and go to Doom? What are your thoughts?
I mean, all of this comes down to that lawsuit, and if it gets thrown away, because he is such a wonderful actor, and the way he's played those roles so far has been fantastic. I wouldn't want to get rid of him. It's more like, hey, tell the story already.
Yeah.
Teased Kang a year ago, He Who Remains. Yeah. And we're now just getting him again. And it's like, he's brilliant. So if that case gets thrown away, stay the course, do it right, get him back in the films. He wasn't a bad Kang in Ant-Man. He was written poorly.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't think he was horrible as an actor in that film. He was good. He had a lot of rage. I mean, but we'll see. I mean, look, if there's anything DC taught us, don't rush anything.
Yeah.
All right. Stay the course. If it makes sense to bring him in, bring him in. What I'm worried about, Ray, when you rush is when they do things like, oh, well, Dr. Doom is actually a Kang variant, and do stupid things like that.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Please
don't do that.
We've learned this. Let me just rephrase that. When you stray too far from the canon, you can stray a little bit. you lose people.
Yeah.
All right. You already have enough loose ends to tie up.
Yeah.
Like at least 20 right now. I'm serious. All right. Just stay the course. All right. And do it right and get good writing. This goes right back to what I was saying. Good writing, good show running, good acting. Stop putting out crap. We're not fatigued with superheroes. We're fatigued with your laziness.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing. And there's so much stuff that came out in this article. Some of it would be quick fixes, which again, going back to the root of, they don't understand the problem. One was they were going to bring back Iron Man and Black Widow from the dead. Terrible idea.
You can only ruin the legacy by doing that.
Yeah. Nothing good comes from that. You're trying to put a Band-Aid on a severed limb. That's not going to fix the core issue here.
You'll get a momentary burst of happiness from people and then let down right after.
Exactly.
Do a better job writing.
The nostalgia won't carry you through to Phase 6 when you finally give us Fantastic Four and X-Men. It's not going to work. The other one, speaking of bad writing, the Blade film was in danger. Mahershala Ali was ready to walk away because supposedly Blade was the fourth main character in the script. That they had he had become a minor character in his own plot, and that it was going to be it was going to follow other secondary characters around Blade. Fortunately, it sounds like that has been thrown out. New writers, new directors, everything new has been being brought in, and that they've now said that the Blade film will be the first rated R Marvel film.
Should be.
Yes.
I mean,
so it sounds like they dodged the bullet there.
You got Man-Thing, Vampire, or Werewolf by Night. You got that thing at the end of the Eternals, Midnight Suns. Where are you going with all that?
Yeah.
Blade. I mean, Blade has to be involved in that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, by the way, I did watch Werewolf by Night in color. A little bit of a different experience.
I haven't watched it in color yet.
It was enjoyably different. I don't know how else to say it. It's one of those, like, if you have the time to do it, recommend it. If not, no worries.
Interesting. I will definitely try to take that. Yeah, I loved Werewolf by Night. I really enjoyed it.
I did too. I was watching it. Right? I was like, wow, this just feels very different in color. You know what I mean?
Yeah, good to know. Also, they announced all episodes of Echo, which will be the first rated R series that Marvel has produced, will be dropping January 10th. Lee, that trailer looked like trash.
Well, when you say you're going to drop all the episodes, it means it doesn't have a massive impact.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Is that basically this is the first series that Marvel is dropping all at once.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder if they're going to bring Daredevil in, and that's the whole purpose of this.
They did say that Daredevil will be part of that series. Obviously, Kingpin will be a big part of that series. There have also been rumors that they're going to tweak Echo's powers.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Again, you're thinking too hard, guys. You're trying too hard.
Yeah, you're bloated.
Yes,
not absolutely. Echo's fault. It's not the actor's fault. The actress's fault. It's your fault.
Yeah, it's the writing and the producing. But yeah, I am not at all excited for this series whatsoever.
We'll see.
I mean, maybe I'll go back and watch the Netflix series or something.
The thing with Marvel and the MCU was for years, decade, they were making content you can't miss a thing.
Yeah.
You're going to be lost. And now you're making stuff you can miss.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Yeah. It's too ancillary. It's too tertiary.
Good word.
Thank you. So yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. I hope it's good, but that trailer did nothing to excite me for it. That the trailer did not. I mean, look, Vincent D'Onofrio is the Kingpin.
He's awesome.
He is phenomenal, and I get why you put mostly him in that trailer because of that. But I just don't care. I just don't care after that trailer.
We'll see where it goes. That's the only thing I can say. Yeah. Hopefully it is good.
Something interesting on the business front from Disney. Also,
my favorite.
Yes. So of course, Disney owns 2/3 of Hulu. Comcast owns the other third, and Disney is now planning. It is official. This has been in the works actually for several years, but it is official now. The number will be $8.6 billion.
Billion with a B.
Yes, that's twice as much as what Disney paid for Marvel.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. To buy out
a lot more content though.
Yes, that's also true. To buy out Comcast and that their shares and have 100% ownership of Hulu. Lee, what are they going to do? Are they going to roll Hulu and Disney Plus? To me, this sounds like they're going to want to roll Hulu and Disney Plus into one thing, which to me would make the most sense.
Yeah, I think they'll take the HBO Max path, which is Hulu will exist for a while, and then eventually they'll merge them together. Yeah. Listen, this is a major move. So if you ever go back and listen to all of season 1, all 100 whatever episodes we did, Ray and I predicted very accurately what was going to happen with streaming in terms of how they've grown and how they've overtaken cable, to the fact I don't even know people have cable too much anymore. But now what you're seeing is there's 15 players on the field, and now they're going to start to consolidate. So Disney does not have live broadcasting yet. This will remedy that problem. All right. Thus making Disney a cable provider, right? In a lot of ways. So I think this is a real power move by Disney to own something else. And you have ESPN, you have Disney, now you have all of Hulu. I mean, you're controlling the airwaves at this point, right? Yeah. Now, keeping in mind, like my own experience, the only thing keeping me on cable, and what I have for cable is YouTube TV, so it's not really cable, is my sports. That's it. My local sports teams are on YouTube TV. Yeah. And I pay for it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this. I know a lot of people are complaining like, oh, they fooled all of you. You have all these streaming services and it costs as much as cable. No, you choose to have all the streaming services. You do not need to have all of the streaming services. That's the beauty of it now, is it's all a la carte. You have a choice. Right. Moreover, if you I buy Paramount, I used to buy Paramount Plus for 3 months to watch one show and then I'd cancel it. Right. You have that choice too. So,
well, and you mentioned the live sports. You know, I have Sling TV basically for the same reason. But now that Hulu's also got live sports, and depending on what, it might be a time for me to also just get rid of Sling altogether, because then if I already have the ESPN Plus bundle, which is where I get all my
which is good. It's a good bundle. Yeah,
it is. Right. I have Disney Plus, and it might just be time to just be like, if I can get my local channels via Hulu, then that's the way to go.
Yeah, it is. And that's why this is a power move.
Yeah, 100%.
And again, it was HBO and Cinemax, then it became HBO Max, and now it's just Max. And I think that's the exact same thing they're going to follow.
Yeah. Stupid name, good idea, but stupid name. HBO was the more valuable brand.
I mean, keeping in mind too that Max basically is Disney Plus. I mean, you got your comic book movies, you got your movies. It's just Disney Plus is better.
Yeah. Right. No, for sure. And even that, like to your point, I don't have an HBO Max or a Max subscription.
Max, I just Max with Max. The HBO
A. Oh goodness. But yeah, no, I got rid of it. Like I can't, I canceled it. Like I don't have I'm not paying nearly as much as I used to pay for cable.
Yeah. Bottom line. You got what you need. That's the brilliance of it.
Yep. So power move by Disney. This deal will be done probably within the next 6 months. And just
and then buy the theaters, Disney.
Yeah, it's the next move. Speaking of buyouts, a small deal in the gaming industry. Atari bought Digital Eclipse. They've made a few pretty decent games over the last few years for $20 million.
Small amount of money we're talking now.
Yeah, that's a small money, especially in the gaming industry. But you're starting to see this. You're starting to see this all over. Where obviously, consolidation is happening a lot more and more in games. But we're also starting to see the dark side of all these acquisitions. A lot of layoffs this year in video games, and only more every day. Ubisoft just fired another 125 people. Bungie, they were acquired by Sony. Sony promised, we're not going to lay anybody off. And then Sony, of course, completely mispredicted how popular Destiny 2 was, which, by the way, games as a service never performed to expectations. Nobody wants a game as a service. Where nobody wants microtransactions, especially because, again, going back to our earlier point, your writing sucks. Right. Build a better universe. Anyway, a lot of folks at Bungie got laid off this week. A lot of drama going on there. Mostly forward-facing folks, especially, and this happened to me back in March. The first folks to always go whenever there's any kind of a merger, I think, is always the community folks, the social media folks, because usually the bigger company they've already got those people in place. And then those of us who are part of that merger or deal or whatever it is, it becomes a redundancy thing.
Well, you want to control the information too.
Right. So, so there you go. So interesting time for the games industry. Meanwhile, SEGA announced they're doing a game with an $800 million budget. So it's
Sega.
throughout 2026. Yeah, so it's an interesting time for games right now.
800 million. It's insane.
That was the announcement. We'll see if that actually happens. I'm curious to see if this is just a ploy to drive their stock price up or something, to see if maybe, because I've been saying all along, Ubisoft, SEGA, I've been saying this for a while, they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable for another acquisition. I'm telling you, give it a few months. Microsoft's not done.
No.
So
they have more money than God.
Yeah, Lee, you have any thoughts on the financials of the gaming industry at the moment?
No, look, I think it makes it easier when you take a 20 million, 800 million and just make it like $80 and $2 just for your own sanity.
Right.
To give you, but look, we've been saying this for years. There is no competition here. Microsoft owns the world on that side of things. And it's like as good as Spider-Man 2 was with Sony and PlayStation. It's like, it's just not close. Like I think we saw that post like, oh, how bad is this going to hurt Xbox? It's not.
It didn't. Yeah.
It's not going to hurt them. It's good for Sony.
Right.
All right.
Sony doing well doesn't hurt Microsoft.
Doesn't hurt anything. When these companies compete, it's always good. It makes sure that Xbox has to keep having games. But $800 million budget for a super game at Sega, I'd love to know what that's going to be.
Yeah, I'm genuinely curious. We'll see. We'll see. We'll find out. That's
Sonic
ballsy.
Afterworlds.
I was going to say to announce it. To announce it already, that's
a flex.
Yeah, they must have something really, really good, or they got some kind of ploy going on. So, PlayStation, interesting little story today. They're cutting their access to Twitter or X, and depending on how you want to refer to it, they're not going to allow people to share clips from PlayStation directly to X anymore. They are no longer going to be compatible with that, which was a curious decision. People, of course, not happy with it because it was the easiest way to share clips and screenshots from your PlayStation to social media. I don't know if it's something to do with Elon or if it's just Sony making another weird decision, but folks are scratching their heads on this one because doesn't seem to be an obvious plus to this for anybody involved.
Well, I there's something behind the scenes people don't know, whether PlayStation was going to be charged to do this. Or that X continually is transitioning into a different type of format. Right. And they don't want to be involved in that. So I don't think it's Elon per se. I just think it's the way X is going.
Yeah, that's fair. And this was right before the show. I wanted to mention this. Over the last 6 months, or should I say January to June of this year, Xbox caught 16 million cheaters on Xbox and either banned them from games outright or suspended their accounts for certain periods of time. So if you were beaten between January and June of 2023 in, like, say, Call of Duty or Fortnite on Xbox, and you're like, man, this person's impossibly good, there's a good chance that they were impossibly good. But Microsoft announced that in their attempts to continually police, obviously, their system, they've banned or suspended 16 million accounts.
That's it, huh?
At the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's like 2 New York cities.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And some of them, I'm sure, were bots and fake accounts as well and whatnot, but they really, really cracked down on that. And that comes right from Microsoft. They announced that today. So that was I thought that was a very interesting statistic.
Dun.
Yeah. And our final story of the week, this was interesting. Lee hasn't heard it yet. I have. On the music front, and this goes into obviously the AI debate and everything, and Peter Jackson, along with the surviving Beatles, Sir Paul McCartney and Sir Ringo Starr, created the last song that John Lennon ever recorded, a song called Now and Then. He put it on a cassette 50 years ago. Obviously, it was terrible quality, and for many years, even when George Harrison was alive, they tried to salvage it and couldn't, but technology has now advanced, and through the help of AI, they were able to put together what they think would have been really that song. Obviously, both the estates of George Harrison and John Lennon signed off on this. In fact, they had their hand. They were very much involved with this. Both estates, John Lennon's son and George Harrison's widow, in particular, providing footage and archival footage for Peter Jackson to help put together the music video for the song. And I think that a lot of folks are saying this is like grave robbing and whatnot. I think if the estates are okay with it, And I think that obviously Paul and Ringo wanted to do this, and George Harrison didn't think it was a great song, but wanted to be part of this, because you have to remember they did this before with 2 other songs when George Harrison was still alive, off of previous John Lennon recordings that had never been salvaged or released or whatnot. And I think it's been being touted as the last Beatles song. I think if you're a Beatles fan, I think you'll really enjoy it. I think this is a big deal for you for obvious reasons. I personally don't think it's their best work, but I still think it's impressive. I think this is actually a good use of AI. I don't think this is, because John Lennon's son and George Harrison's widow both signed off on this, both helped with this process, and were driving factors behind this. And then obviously you have a visionary like Peter Jackson to help work on it and do the special, obviously bring it all together and work with the AI and the special effects. Lee, where do you fall in this the debate?
Well, a few things, right? AI is a gift. I wish we would stop turning it into the dark, evil Terminator 2 plot that most people think. Expand your mind a little bit. Technology always evolves faster than a human's capacity to use it. AI is going to be a gift for mankind. I don't think it's going to turn into a giant robot and murder us all. I don't think that's the point. Okay. With that said, there also is some personal accountability and some permissions needed to use it. The fact that they got the permission from the families, to me, that's absolutely fine. Now, if they had said, no, do not do it, and they did it anyway, that's a problem.
Yes.
Okay. That's a big problem. All right. But in this case, no, it's absolutely fine. I don't understand why anybody would have a problem with that. It is a gift. Keep in mind, nobody complained when Peter Jackson got all that World War I footage and put it together using AI to make a really amazing documentary about World War I, which I saw. It was fantastic. It was the first time you ever saw World War I in real time, right? And they used a tremendous amount of AI because, for those you don't know, film back in the 19 teens, I guess that's how you have to say it, was done at an incredibly slow frame rate. So they basically had to create twice as many frames. So they had a computer have to create half of the film.
Fill in the blanks.
Yeah, and you can't tell. So AI is a gift. If it gets in the wrong hands, like anything, it could go bad, but that's not AI's fault. That's our fault. Yeah. This is a case where AI has done something great. In a utopian future, when all of our jobs are replaced by robots and we can just lounge and relax, and this turns into the movie WALL-E, that'll be an interesting time. Yeah, right?
I just want to eat and play video games all day.
I mean, that's basically what they do. WALL-E.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, it's a great use of AI. And again, Peter Jackson is a visionary. So no issues with this whatsoever.
No, I agree. I think that as long as the proper people signed off on it, again, I think with anything, I think regulation, again, it all comes down to regulation. I think it comes down to absolutely. I think putting restrictions on things. But again, I think in this case, the folks who signed off on it, who have the power of the estate and whatnot, who approved of it, obviously this was something that Paul and Ringo really wanted to do as well, right? It wasn't like Peter Jackson was twisting their arm or something. Like I think this is a great final goodbye from one of the greatest bands of all time.
Technology's allowed us to do it. And again, this isn't the first time. We've seen this in geekdom before, when they brought back Grand Admiral Tarkin, excuse me.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about Ahsoka too much. But Tarkin, they brought him back. They got permission from the family to bring him back.
Right.
I believe they did the same thing with Carrie Fisher in the final Star Wars film.
Yeah, and even Bruce Willis, now that he's nonverbal, signing off on AI to recreate aspects from obviously his great filmography over the years. I think that it's a case-by-case situation. And I think in this case, I think it's perfectly fine.
Right.
So on that note, that's the show.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As always, the Geeks Who Like Sports. This is a great episode. Again, we got a lot going on already. We already got plans for next week. We're gonna talk about the Ghostbusters trailer.
Ghostbusters.
I might go see the Marvels.
I'm gonna try and see it. I don't know if I'm gonna see it before Tuesday, but I'm gonna try and see it.
Yeah. So it's a lot easier for me because I don't have like kids and stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah,
it's the stuff. Maybe I will go see. Let's take a little look at the calendar, because my wife doesn't listen to this show. She's not going to know unless you listen. Jen. You secretly listen. I'm watching you. When does it come out? Friday?
Comes out Friday, the 10th.
You know what I mean? Maybe a little schedule here might actually happen. I think we should do a spoiler cast next Tuesday.
I think that's possible. I think we can fit that in.
Yes, the Marvels. You heard it here first, folks.
There you go. But so things to look forward to. But we really appreciate everybody who hung out and listened to this episode. Don't forget, we're gonna have ourselves a mashup coming up later this week, and then of course we will be back with more next week. But until then, this has been episode 6 of season 2 of Geeks Who Like Sports. That's Lee. I'm Ray. Good night, everybody.
Good night.